Hello, friends, OWS fam. It is StatATL. Today is Monday the 6th, and today we're going to be talking some best ball strategy, NFL playoffs starting on Saturday. We will be doing some drafts in both the Gauntlet and the brand new Little Gauntlet. A little bit of a different structure on that one in terms of advance rate, so we'll kind of talk through some of that. I think we're going to have some new folks joining in. As many of you know, I've been doing this live at 5 every day the past 10, 15 days or so. But I think now that the regular season is behind us, we're going to see some more interest in playoff best ball. So for those of you who have thought the lobbies have been pretty full over on Underdog, on DraftKings, on Drafters, I'm specifically going to be talking Underdog contests today. But, I think on Sunday we saw kind of that really ramped up interest in the playoff best ball format with Underdog opening up. I think it was a little mitten. Like a $3.20 max, 15, 16, 17,000 entrants, and it literally filled in one day. They opened it on Sunday morning, and it filled by the end of the day on Sunday. So definitely some increased interest in the playoff best ball format. I think more so this year than even in years past. So it's a really awesome format. It's something that I am super passionate about. I know a lot of the folks tuning in are familiar with my work over at 1 Week Season, kind of producing, weekly DFS content, regular season best ball content, along with some great other contributors over at 1 Week Season. I know a lot of you have seen some of my work over on DFS Mastermind, talking playoff and weekly winners contest last year. And we've done some short slate strategy over with Toe Tag and Tambo over with the Ship It Nation guys. I've had a lot of success doing playoff best ball. Have actually won the flagship contest on Underdog last year, and excited for this year. I think the edge continues to be really large. For those of you who have tuned in, we have typically done somewhere between 3, 4, 5, 6 drafts live on stream every day, and generally we have 1 to 2 teams that are dead in every single draft. Unlike regular best ball where, you could see, there could be some injuries, things could play out a certain way where teams could be live. With the playoff format, like, you can tell right after the draft is over, like, this team is dead. Like, they can't field 5 in the Super Bowl, or they've drafted too many bye week players and they can't even field 5 in the first round. So they have basically no chance of advancing out of round 1. So we'll talk a little bit, some strategy. I will take your questions here in the comments section. But since I think we're going to have some brand new listeners today, let's just kind of talk through high level a little bit about best ball, what it is, some of the differences between daily fantasy and playoff best ball. If you are new here, down in the description, check out, I've got a link to a written article that I've done over at 1 Week Season. I've got the link in the Discord there for you to check out. Actually updated it this morning with the different playoff seedings. It's also a link down in the description, again, down below. That is a video format of similar content, kind of talking some strategy. Not exactly the same as the written article, but a good high-level overview for those of you who prefer listening to reading. If you are new here, please like and subscribe to both the 1 Week Season channel as well as my own personal channel over at StatATL on YouTube. Means a lot to me, helps kind of drive new listeners to the channel. So with all that said, I do appreciate those of you watching live on YouTube and Twitter, aka X, today. And let's kind of hop in, overview. And for some of you, this will be real good little refresher, good little reminder. So best ball on Underdog specifically. These are 6-player snake drafts comprised of 10 rounds in that best ball format. So your team is going to be made up of 10 total players, starting lineup of 5 players. So a quarterback, 2 wide receivers or tight end, one running back, and one flex. So in the main gauntlet, it's a 4-round structure with the top 2 teams advancing out of a group of 6 in the first round. And then the subsequent rounds, the second and the third round, are one team advancing out of a group of 10. And if you were to make it all the way to the Super Bowl, it is a finals of just 300 or so teams, 200,000 up top on Underdog. A much better, little flatter payout structure than on DraftKings, where I think it's 25% of the prize pool. It goes to first place in their flagship contest. On Underdog, it is only 10%. So I do really like that as a flatter payout structure. So obviously, like, getting out of the first round is crucial, but it's difficult if you're drafting, 3 or more players from a bye week team. So like that's Kansas City and Detroit. So, I think those last 2 points kind of bring up an interesting dilemma, as the bye week teams most likely to make the conference final and the Super Bowl. But kind of drafting several of those players really hampers your chances of getting out of the first round. So if we look back historically, you will see that at least one of the 1 seeds made it to the final, or made it to the Super Bowl in like 42% of every historical Super Bowl. And so to me, that advantage of a 1 seed is even more emphasized recently with the fact that it's only 1 bye per conference, where it used to be 2. So I think in order to win the contest, you're likely going to need at least 5 players to make the Super Bowl that are active. So kind of keep that in mind. I think that incentivizes you to, stack your lineups, consolidating around a few teams, kind of hoping that those teams make deep playoff runs. If you prioritize kind of stacking those elite contenders, so, the betting favorites are the Chiefs and the Lions out of each conference respectively, like, you're potentially going to be, drafting some poorly projected depth players to help, get out of round 1. So we'll talk through some of the strategies that I like if you're drafting 2 of the bye week teams. So I think that's a good kind of overall, high level view of Bestball. In terms of roster construction, I think it's critical that you're really trying to set yourself up to build around multiple teams, like ideally, let's say 2 to 4 on most builds, with at least 1 team from each conference. So again, we'll see when we do some of these drafts, you will see teams that like don't, they'll start like 6 rounds, 7 rounds in a row, and they'll just draft all NFC players. And it's like, well, bro, if you want to have a chance at winning, you've got to have some good AFC players too. So kind of just something to keep in mind as you're building out your drafts. I also think it's important to kind of keep in mind the story that you're telling when you're doing these drafts. If your roster is built around like 2 number 2 seeds, so in this current year's format, that would be the Eagles and the Bills. Like, if that is the Super Bowl, I think that it's likely that you will see rosters, you will see teams in the Super Bowl that have, 7 or 8, even potentially 9 or 10 active players in the finals. Whereas obviously if it's 2 1 seeds, that's not possible, where 5 would be the max. So just kind of something to keep in mind as we go through. We'll talk specific to like quarterback strategy, each round specifically as we hop in. So with that, let me hop into a draft. I'm going to join, let's do the little gauntlet 2. It's a brand new contest that Underdog just launched. It is a 10 max, $10, and I'm gonna just fire that up here. It's 5 of 6 filled now. Let me wait till the draft room is filled. It is now filled, and I am gonna share my screen so we can draft along and talk through the draft. If you guys have any questions, please feel free, throw them in the comments section here. I will talk through and address anything to the best of my ability. So you should be seeing the screen now. Perfect. So again, this is a little gauntlet. It is a 10 max, $10 contest. Pretty good advanced structure on this. as well. I've got the 5C. We got a few seconds. Actually, we'll talk through it. We'll talk through the rules on the next one. Kind of talk through a little bit of the differences between the structure. This actually is a better structure in terms of advance rate than the Gauntlet, whereas the Gauntlet, I believe, is 2 out of 6, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10. I believe that this is 2 out of 6, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 5, if I'm remembering that correctly. But we'll look. It's a brand new contest. I think it just opened today. So I haven't had a ton of time with my full-time job to dive in and see how that looks. So drawing the 5 spot here. Typically these boards, if you are new here, we have seen ADP shift quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. I've been kind of ripping these drafts for 3-4 weeks now. But we've seen a major shift in ADP where typically Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts go 1, 2, 3. Whereas when the contest kind of first started, it was basically Josh Allen 1, Saquon Barkley 2. I've had Pete says, thank you, Pete. Let me chime in here and grab your comment. Pete says, I've had some time today. It's 2 of 6, 1 of 5, 1 of 6. So much better advanced strategy than the Gauntlet. A little bit easier to advance. I'm going to start with Saquon Barkley here. For those of you who have been tuning in the last couple of days, I've seen this pretty frequently from me starting with Barkley on a lot of these drafts. It is not because I am any higher on Barkley this week than I was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just don't have a ton of exposure to the Eagles and trying to get a little bit more of that. So as someone who is likely going to be doing a few hundred of these drafts between the different contests, I am trying to be conscious of my overall exposures. Just trying to make sure that I don't have a blind spot to any of these kind of key teams. Obviously, the Eagles, one of these great higher probability odds. So I have started Saquon Barkley. I'm on Ross St. Brown. The six hole here went Gibbs, Mahomes. 4 hole to my left, Pete G went Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, likely to be building out a Vikings build from the 4 hole. 3 hole, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, kind of stacking the Eagles. If it gets back to him, I'd expect him to try to grab Devonta Smith at 15. 2 hole, Lamar Jackson, Jameson Williams. And 1 hole, Josh Allen. This is always a difficult decision. Would expect him to take James Cook, and then we'll be curious to see which direction he goes. Let's see. Round mound of a rebound. Yes, sir. Damn, I tried to hop in there and give you some competition. David, I'm going to be doing, I'll probably do 4 or 5 of these today. So you'll have your opportunity to give me, quote unquote, some competition. Would love to have you in and drafting and fielding your questions and feedback as we go. Just popped open a beer, in my opinion, the best beer. Apparently this gets some negative feedback. This is the A&W root beer. I think this is an elite soda. But it gets a little crap on these streams, which I'm not sure I understand. So 3 hole goes Jameson Williams, Mark Andrews closes out there. We got Addison. So Pete clearly building around Minnesota. So interesting decision for me here. I'm going to take a gamble. I am of the opinion that you should try to push this stuff. I'm going to take Xavier Worthy. I am going to kind of bank on the fact that the Patrick Mahomes drafter is not going to draft both quarterbacks that have a round 1 bye, basically forcing him to take a 3rd quarterback. That would be such a minus EV build for him. Do I only draft on Underdog? I do not only draft on Underdog. I have been focusing on it now. I will probably do some. I will probably do some on DraftKings and Drafters later in the week. A little bit different format on Drafters. Drafters is cumulative scoring, whereas this has that round pod advancement. So had some thought there of pushing Jared Goff another round. Didn't love that the 2 spot had Jameson Williams. Thought there was a chance could get sniped there and have really no option with Pete kind of building out Minnesota there in the 4 hole. Could always, I guess, have potentially pivoted to some other options, maybe Tampa Bay, maybe the Chargers, maybe the Rams. The Rams were gone basically with key players like Puka Nacua already going in the 3rd. So I didn't think it was worth the risk. Up to 42 drafts on DraftKings. Would be curious how they compare. It's a little bit different on DraftKings. You are, I believe it's 12-man drafts. You are forced to start a tight end every round. So slightly different in that regard, where tight end has a little bit more value. I'll be doing some of those. All right, so let me hop in here, give a little thought to this. I'm going to buy the dip a little bit here on Zay Flowers. Since my build is currently with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm going to try to give myself a second AFC potential. And Baltimore and Kansas City, I've got Xavier Worthy already. They could both meet in the AFC final. I would say that's pretty close to the betting favorite. Probably be Kansas City, Buffalo. So I'm going to take David Montgomery here, kind of complete the bet a little bit with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. Going to be banking on Montgomery coming back in the 2nd round of the playoffs for this particular build. Maximus here. Are you playing the wild card DFS this Saturday? Your shell Thanksgiving strategy would work well with these 3 games and staggered starts. Steve, thank you for that question and that shout out. Yes, I will be playing on Saturday. I will be doing a DFS Labs episode on the OWS channel. I believe on Thursday, or I think Thursday that content will air. And then I will have an article, I believe, as well, kind of talking strategy around those games. So let's kind of look at what some of the other teams are doing here. 6 hole went Gibbs, Mahomes, Puka, Laporta, Hollywood Brown, Josh Jacobs. So he's got a Gibbs, Laporta build with Mahomes and Hollywood Brown. Likely also building for that bye potential. Would expect him to probably take one more Chief and stop. The 4 hole with Pete G. He's got Henry, Jefferson, Addison, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold. So really strong Minnesota build here. He's also got Derrick Henry and Amari Cooper. Probably expect him to try to fill in another Buffalo piece, maybe another Baltimore piece later. But I like that start for Pete. 3 hole Ellie Reasons. Actually, let's hold on Ellie Reasons. Let me get an idea of where I want to potentially go with this build, depending on what comes to me here. I don't want to take the chance. I'm going to take DeAndre Hopkins here. I think there's a really strong chance that Carnifex would have taken either Kareem Hunt or Hopkins at this turn, but he opted for neither, which I think is an interesting build strategy for him. I've got 3 guys with a bye, so I do need a second quarterback. I'm going to grab Justice Hill here. Kind of lean into that as another potential with Baltimore, as a way to potentially build out this roster. So at this point, I have St. Brown, Goff, Montgomery, DeAndre Hopkins, and Xavier Worthy. So I have 5 bye-week players. So I need to ensure that I take another quarterback with my next 2 picks, and then another non-bye week player. Right now, my non-bye week players are Saquon Barkley, Zay Flowers, Justice Hill, which this may end up being a dead roster if Zay Flowers doesn't play the first week of the playoffs, which is potential. Kind of part of the gamble of these type of builds. David Greer, yes, sir. Love short slates strat. I'll be playing that way. Excellent. David, if you haven't checked out some of my short slate strategy stuff, you can find it on the 1 week season. On the 1 week season channel. You could also find it on the StatATL YouTube channel. There's, I believe, a link to that below in the description, or if you just search YouTube for StatATL, you can find the content there as well. Or if you're a member over at Ship It or DFS Mastermind, I've done some content on short slates there with Toe Tag and Tambo. So me on the clock, I am going to take Cortland Sutton here as simply as a one-off, and then I will need a quarterback with my last pick. So you're looking forward to Mike and I are playing this weekend for sure. Yeah. Great Raptors season, so I enjoy the strats here. Yep, cheers to you as well, Maximus. So as I promised, we will take a look at the 1, 2, and 3 hole drafts. Let me take my final pick, kind of see where I want to go with quarterback on this build. I don't have very many of these shares. I'm going to grab Bo Nix. Pair him up with Cortland Sutton on this particular build. 3 hole. Ellie Reasons goes Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Dallas Goedert, Lad McConkey, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs. So he builds around make this a little bigger. Builds around Philadelphia with Hurts, Brown, Goddard, and Gainwell there, giving him 4 Eagles. Grabs 2 Kansas City Chiefs with Kelce, Pacheco. Grabs 2 Chargers with McConkey and J.K. Dobbins. And then also adds 2 Packers late with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. Don't mind that. Don't love grabbing so many pieces in a first round matchup where you know you're going to be losing at least 2 of those guys. You know you're going to lose Dobbs and Jaden Reed, but does help you potentially advance out of the first round. The 2 spot, Lamar Jackson, Jamison Williams, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, Kyron Williams, Bucky Irving, Nico Collins, TJ Hawkinson, Tim Patrick, Joe Mixon. So starts off with the Baltimore build. He ends up with Lamar, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman for 3 Ravens. Bringing it back in the AFC, making sure I'm not missing this. It appears that he's got Jamison Williams and Tim Patrick, but that can't be a Super Bowl matchup because he doesn't have any running back. So I think that this is a dead build. Right? Am I missing something? No. So this is a team that can't field 5 in the Super Bowl. And the one hole, Josh Allen, James Cook, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Keon Coleman, and Ty Johnson. So really strong on Buffalo. And then stacked Tampa Bay as well. I went with Rashad White, Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans. So gave himself a really strong build there if Tampa Bay is able to advance to the Super Bowl with Buffalo. So I love that build as well. Hey, just brought per sentence. So let me fire up another build here. I accidentally closed the window, so bear with me for just a second while I fire something up. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, throw them in the questions. I'd be happy to answer them here in the comments. For those of you watching live, how many drafts have you guys done so far on Underdog? Are these new for you? Have you been firing some of these off for a couple days, a week or two now? What is this like for your portfolio? So firing up another draft. Let's do another in the same contest. The new little gauntlet. So room has filled here for me. Drew the 2-hole here. See some friendly faces, folks I do know from the Discord. That was Pete says that was his 38th. Not love that for you. Brian Pitts, Oak Zoo here. Do you have a favorite time of day to draft or least favorite time? It depends on your sleep schedule, Brian. For me, I don't mind doing an occasional draft from my bed on my phone at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I think that you find certainly on like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, you find some pretty drunk folks in there doing some pretty questionable things. I don't know that I have a least favorite time. It's probably kind of late morning, to be honest with you. I feel like there's a lot of content creators, maybe not a lot, but there are several content creators that produce content around that same time. So you've got some sharper drafters at that time. So we've got the 2-hole here. I'm gonna start with Lamar Jackson here. Myself, all little gauntlet. Yeah, the little gauntlet's a great small contest. Really strong advancement, good payout structure. I think also 10% to first. So this is one that I really like. We may just do 4 or 5 drafts in this today. Maybe we'll do one in the gauntlet. Kind of see what time allows. Questionable things can be annoying as well. Yeah, pros and cons to that. Got some pros of having kind of all badges in a draft with you. Theoretically, you've got more guys staying in their lane. Not getting out of line as much, but sometimes when you're doing these drafts with folks who are maybe brand new to it, really helps you to get some more unique combinations. Guys that typically wouldn't slide in the first, second, third round. You're able to really get a unique pairing of 3 of them together, which to me is always intriguing. So pretty standard start here across the board. Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry, the first 6. 6-hole freeze goes Henry, Goff. It's a really interesting start because I don't know I'm just not sure what Lions are going to come back to you there at 6. So not one that I am, not one I'm super fond of personally. Such a beautiful tournament. The average 1 to 2 dead teams more than pays the rake. Yeah, very, very true. I think that we have kind of reviewed drafts basically every time we will go through this. And there are, dead drafts basically every draft through. We're going to take Jefferson here. I think it's a mistake. I think you commonly will see teams with this Lamar pick take James Cook. I think that's a mistake. Basically, the Buffalo and Baltimore both can't make it to the conference finals. So to me, I generally don't like to take players on teams that I can at least. I don't want to use such high draft capital on teams I know can't really get some of my high picks to at least the conference final. So on a build here, this is likely to be Baltimore, Minnesota. Since I don't have Derrick Henry, I think it's really critical that you try to grab Aaron Jones here. I think it's a mistake not to take him because if I do get to the Super Bowl with Baltimore, Minnesota, there will be teams that go Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, or, have Sam Darnold and Derrick Henry or Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones. And so if you don't get either of those two guys and you're playing, Justice Hill or Cam Akers as your Super Bowl running back, you're at such a competitive disadvantage where I think that, if you were betting them straight up of who's going to be the higher scorer, either Derrick Henry or Aaron Jones, who are, obviously the two premier running backs on those teams, I still think that Aaron Jones puts up a better score than Henry, 35-40% of the time. It's not like Henry is the 80-90% smash guy. So I think that percentage is very low if your bet is on a Justice Hill, Cam Akers type. That's probably a sub 5% outcome. So 6-hole here goes Henry, Mark Andrews with Goff and Worthy as expected. I'm not a fan of this team. He's got Goff. He's not going to have a single really Detroit pass catcher with him, or at least a viable one. On the clock here, again, I don't want to take Shakir. I think that is a mistake. Because of this build, I'm going to grab Bateman because I don't want to miss out on him. Certainly when the 4-hole has taken Flowers, to me, this is a mistake. When Andrews and Henry are already off the board, I've got Lamar and very likely to take Bateman. What pairing are you going to have with Flowers? To me, that's a mistake. I think one of the things that is completely overlooked by, I think, a lot of teams is... let me make my pick here, and then I will... Let's try to push this and see if we can make this happen. I think one of the mistakes that is commonly done while drafting is teams... drafters don't pay attention to what others around them are doing. Certainly, I think it's super important if you're in the 2-hole or the 5-hole, kind of seeing certainly, if you're in the 2-hole, the guy to my left, knowing what he's likely to do if I'm a toss-up between two players, who's more likely to come back to me versus like who's more likely to get taken. I think that that's super critical that most people don't pay attention to. I'm catching up here, but seems like you need to take 4 to 6 players from each conference, split 1 to 3 teams in each conference. Steve, that's certainly not a bad approach. I think that depending on how you build, I think that that's certainly optimal, like from a theoretical standpoint. Like, let's assume that you are not building around bye teams, or you just have one team with a bye. So you're building maybe with Kansas City or maybe with Detroit. I feel like you want to have at least 3 players from a respective conference. You know, if you decide that you want to build around like 3 or 4 guys from one NFC team and 3 or 4 guys from another NFC team that could play in the conference final, and then only build, let's say, 3 from, you know, the other side. Maybe that's like the AFC. If you stack, you know, go 3 or 4 guys from 2 different NFC teams, I'm okay with that as well. I think it's really just kind of more being observant around what the board is giving you. To me here, I'm going to grab Bucky Irving here. Give myself another potential out with Baltimore. I don't mind if Addison goes. If he doesn't, obviously I will grab him. If he does, I'll just take Hawkinson and have 3 Minnesota pieces and be totally fine with that. Yeah, I think we've pushed this long enough. So let's get back and looking at it. Yeah, team stacking, super important. Yep, Steve, you nailed it. That is the name of the game here. I think you can overdo it. I think you can overdo it with certain teams, certain specific teams. So to me, like Buffalo is one of those teams that I feel like you can really overstack Buffalo. I'm not insinuating that the 1 seed here, Roquet, has done that, but I think that you will see in some of your drafts, you will see the board go from the 1 spot, like Josh Allen, James Cook. He'll grab Shakir, he'll grab Amari Cooper, he'll grab Dalton Kincaid. Maybe he'll have Keon Coleman. Like, if you go and look at Buffalo box scores, like, it's just so rare that a lot of those players, you know, your Dalton Kincaids, your Keon Colemans, like, it's just so rare that they give you a 15-point score. Like, they probably have just a very few handful among them all season. So to me, that's not an approach that I generally like to take. I feel like for me, Buffalo, I'm happy to have 3, like max 4 Bills. But that's, again, just kind of a personal angle on it. All right, so back to the first, the 1 hole here. He goes Allen, Cook, Shakir, Cooper. He's got DeAndre Hopkins. And he's got Jameson Williams. Montgomery off the board. Not really sure where he's going to go in the to kind of build out some NFC pieces. We'll talk through the 3 hole in just a second. Basically hoping he takes anyone but Isaiah Likely. So to me, the 1 hole here, if he continues, like if he takes Kareem Hunt, I think that is I think that's a mistake. In my opinion, he just, I guess he's going to be able to kind of come up with a Nakua Cooper Kupp build out of the Rams. And that would be his Super Bowl matchup. But I think without Kyron Williams on that build, it's it's just too weak, in my opinion. So we'll complete the Tampa Bay build here as an option with Jalen McMillan. So for me, this is a Baltimore build with Lamar, Bateman, likely. For me, I'll probably grab a fourth Baltimore piece in the 10th round. A Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, Nelson Aguilar sorts. And then I've got two NFC potential opponents in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Jordan Addison to go along with Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, and Jalen McMillan. I don't generally love stacking two teams that are meeting in the first round. So I'm likely going to lose. Well, I'm going to definitely lose 3 of these pieces between Bucky, McMillan, and Evans, or Jefferson, Jones, and Addison. Hoping for a high-scoring game on that on this particular build. Not having any bye week players, I think, gives you a little bit more flexibility to do that. Just because with no bye week players, this roster has viable scores out of all, or viable path to getting a score out of all 10 players. On this build, I don't necessarily need a running back, as I'm basically building that the Super Bowl is either Minnesota or Tampa Bay with Baltimore. So I certainly could grab a Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell pick here on at my spot. Certainly don't have to. Could go wide receiver. That's totally viable as well. Or if a guy like Courtland Sutton is available, that's somebody that I might consider here as well, just as like kind of a strong one-off piece to help you advance out of the first round. But I think in the long run, another Ravens piece is probably my highest expected value. I'm gonna grab Keaton Mitchell here. Kind of complete that bet. So we didn't talk through the 3-hole here. Mets 11. He goes Gibbs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Sam Laporta. So really strong. Detroit obviously wasn't able to complete that with Goff going again to the 6-hole. Don't understand that pick at all. But neither here nor there. Fills it out with Lad McConkey, J.K. Dobbins, Quentin Johnson, Justin Herbert. So builds around that potential Super Bowl. Add some one-off pieces with Nico Collins and Austin Eckler, and had Josh Palmer there as well. So leaning into that place. I do like grabbing a piece like Nico Collins, since you're going to be missing these 3, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Laporta in the first round due to the bye. A player like Nico gives you another option, for that round 1 score. So good with that. Let's fire up one more. Same contest. Sorry, I will get in the habit of not closing the screen. Internet's being real quick right now. So I think another thing to kind of keep in mind as you're doing some of these drafts is kind of being cognizant of the tournament that you are in. So we're going to do another in whatever that contest was called that we were just in, the Little Gauntlet. I'm trying to scroll over and find her here. And I am in. Just waiting for the contest to fill. And it is filled. Let's make it a little smaller here. Sorry that you're having to watch me do this on screen, but you know, this is how it goes. And so what I mean by my last comment there is if you are drafting in a contest like the Gauntlet that has been open for a month, that is a slightly different contest in a contest like this little Gauntlet that we are drafting that I will label as like a snapshot contest. So this little contest just opened, I believe today, maybe last night. I think it was this morning though. And so everyone drafting in this contest has the same exact information of who the playoff teams are, what their seedings are. Whereas there are teams in the Gauntlet that drafted 3-4 weeks ago where playoff seedings and buys and teams who were going to make the playoffs was really a toss-up. So some uncertainty there. So you've got more completely dead teams who took shots on Bengals or Seahawks and the like. But then you also have teams that, you know, gambled on the Rams and got guys like Puka Nacua and Kyren Williams in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. So a little bit of something to kind of be conscious of as you're doing some of these drafts. We're going to take a shot on Saquon Barkley here. Again, second time, you guys are really going to think I like Saquon Barkley a ton. And I might. He might be a great play. This is just for me trying to get a little bit more exposure to Eagles players. So pretty typical board thoughts off Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jahmyr Gibbs in the 3 spot. I take Barkley in the 4 spot. More Piff takes Derrick Henry in the 5 spot. And Wally 0390 starts off Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. I'm going to be very happy with either build that comes back to me, either Hurts or Mahomes. Personally, don't have a ton of this start. Barkley Hurts, so I do like this. Definitely helps the portfolio. And is a really strong, I think, a really strong start, kind of potentially capturing a lot of the upside from Philadelphia. So the 6 hole goes Amon-Ra and Goff, strong start for him. 5 hole Henry and Mahomes. 3 hole Gibbs and James Cook. 2 hole, the complete tool goes Lamar Jackson, AJ Brown. And an interesting kind of spot here for the Josh Allen drafter. I know what I would do here in this particular spot, but be curious to see what he decides to do. He goes Kyren Williams. That's going to be unique. I would hope that he would take Puka Nacua here after taking Kyren in the 2nd. Pacheco, it's an interesting choice. Two hole goes Lamar Jackson, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. Not surprised to take CJ Katz, taking Justin Jefferson there. I think this is Xavier Worthy for me here. 5-hole Henry, Mahomes, Kelsey. 6-hole starts off with a Detroit double stack with Goff, Amon-Ra, and Jameson Williams. Takes Mark Andrews, little cross conference there for his 4th pick. Sam Laporta goes next. So interesting decision here. I could grab Aaron Jones here, give myself another NFC piece. I could also grab Zay Flowers here and give myself, I'm going to grab Aaron Jones here. I like this because could certainly be an NFC conference championship matchup with Philadelphia. And I like kind of having that option. Considered there's a Flowers as a potential option. Considered Khalil Shakir there as a potential option. Give me 2 NFC pieces. Part of the reason for kind of passing on them here, and in my mind, I think there's a possibility that they come back. Buffalo is easy enough to build a couple pieces around later. So that can be a secondary NFC stack or AFC stack kind of in the later rounds. I think that if I don't take Aaron Jones at 21, he's clearly taken at 22 by CJ Cat. I'm probably taking Darnold here if I'm CJ Cat. Yeah, I wouldn't want to push this too much. So to me, again, I'm going to buy the dip. I'm going to give myself another out here in the AFC with Zay Flowers, or excuse me, the AFC with Zay Flowers. So 1 hole goes Josh Allen, Khalil Shakir. Got that paired up with Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. And he's also got Isaiah Pacheco there for a potential AFC championship. 2 hole goes Lamar, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Bucky Irving, Rashad Bateman. So grabs a Raven to go along with his 2 Eagles, and Bucky Irving, probably hoping that Mike Evans got back to him there. The Commanders winning the first round will really shake up some of my favorite drafts. Yeah, I mean, I think the Commanders are totally live too. Is I think what's funny about that. So I'm gonna go a little early here. Again, this is paying attention to the draft board. I'm gonna grab T.J. Hawkinson here to pair with Aaron Jones in that potential NFC Championship game. Just knowing that. The guy directly to my left has gone Jefferson, Addison, Darnold. And there's very unlikely that Hawkinson gets back to me. And then I've just got Aaron Jones basically as a complete one-off. So the 6th hole, haven't talked about him much. He goes Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Jameson Williams, goes and grabs David Montgomery here at the 5-6 turn. So has got 4 Lions. Pairs that with Mike Evans. Give him a strong possibility one-off out of that first round. So he's going to have 4 guys on bye. He's grabbed Mark Andrews, his only AFC piece. Probably want to focus on some AFC players here at the next turn for him. 5-hole Derrick Henry, Mahomes, Kelsey, Laporta, Jacobs, Jaden Daniels. Really a mishmash and assortment at this point. Outside of Kelsey, Mahomes, he doesn't have really anything else kind of correlated or working together. One hole grabs adds Keon Coleman and Terry McLaurin to the mix. Probably expect him to probably add some other Washington pieces later. I am back on the clock. Feels like this feels like Dallas Goedert. I considered something else. I will talk through it in just a second of why I decided that versus not. What else did we? Where did we leave off? 2-hole complete tool goes Lamar, Devontae. So he's got Lamar. He's got Bateman. He's added Joe Mixon, Nico Collins there, and he's got Bucky Irving there. Interesting build so far. I mean, he's got AJ Brown, Devontae Smith is his likeliest NFC piece. Yeah. So yeah, for me, I considered taking another Kansas City piece. Didn't want to lean into it too early there because I felt like it was likely that the 5-hole would do what he did, take at least 2, but I didn't think that Wally would do it. So happy to just kind of take Hollywood Brown here. Kind of give me to go along with the Eagles here with Barkley, Hurts, and Goddard. This is with Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, so they could meet in the final. Got Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown as an NFC opponent, and I've got Zay Flowers. We'll probably grab another Baltimore piece here in the last 2 rounds to kind of give me a couple of options there for this build. I have dabble. Kiss says I have dabbled with some 10th round Eckler. I've done it, I think, 3 times so far in the last couple days. Draft board view, like this is a game changer, great for watching the room. You are welcome. I really like it for drafting as well. Generally, if I'm not streaming, I have this going, but I just have it going on 2 different monitors. So this is a nice way to consolidate it. And Kiss says Hollywood after D-Hop is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I was happy with either of them, to be candid with you. I just wanted to be able to grab another Kansas City piece. Would have been happy with Kareem Hunt as well. Didn't feel like I needed it with Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley, kind of 2 real strong running backs, both non-bye weeks. So this feels like the real obvious pick here is Isaiah Likely. Making sure I'm not missing anything here. No, that's the way I want to go. And then the conversation here on the 10th round pick could really go a couple of different directions. Could certainly grab someone like Kenneth Gainwell here, bet on a 4th Eagle. I probably won't take another Kansas City piece. Maybe I'll grab another Baltimore piece. We'll just kind of see how this board plays out. I likely won't take something that's uncorrelated unless it's like a George Pickens or Cortland Sutton. There are no running backs I would take, just kind of one-off that's here on the board. Just kind of, again, you have to be one of the top 2 scores to advance out of the first round. So while this has been a reasonably clean build around Philadelphia, Kansas City, Minnesota, like I've got a solid 4 teams that could all make it to the NFC and AFC championship games. Like all 4 of these teams could theoretically play all the way through and be the final 4 teams. You also have to get out of the first round for a draft like this to matter. I don't think I want a 3rd Chief, because if I've got a 3rd Chief, Mahomes is probably having a pretty strong game in the championship game. Yeah, I think I'm going one off here with Cortland Sutton. Obviously, considered Kenneth Gainwell, I thought was a strong potential option there as well. Would never consider a second quarterback on a build like this. So let's just kind of talk through some of the other boards and just see how everyone did. So 6-hole here, Wally 0390. He goes Amon-Ra, Goff, Jamison Williams. Adds in David Montgomery, so he's got 4 bye week players. Takes Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield for first round, and he's got Mark Andrews, Justice Hill as a potential Super Bowl. So he's basically building around 3 teams. He's got 4 Tampa Bay players and 4 Detroit players. Yeah, I don't really love that. I feel like it's going to be really hot with 4 Detroit players on bye the first round. I think you're going to be hard pressed to get enough like fantasy viable scores with Evans, McMillan, and Baker Mayfield. It's possible, and White. Like you need at least 3 usable scores out of those 4. And then your other options are Mark Andrews, Justice Hill. This is viable. This is not a dead team, but this team is thin. 5-hole went Mahomes, Kelsey, Hopkins, Hunt. So he's got 4. He's got 4 Kansas City pieces. Trying to see where his viable Super Bowl is outside of just one-offs. Yeah, I think it's just one-offs. Either a 4-man Kansas City stack with Laporta or a 4-man Kansas City stack with Josh Jacobs. Let me know in the chat if I'm missing something. But yeah, to me, this is not a team that could really fill the full roster. A 4-1 isn't winning. Unless it's two bye week teams. Unless it's Kansas City, Detroit. So maybe this could get there, but Sam Laporta's real thin to be the one. CJ goes Gibbs, Cook, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Sam Darnold. So builds around Minnesota. He's got James Cook, adds Amari Cooper. I like that. Yeah, I don't mind this build at all from the 3 holes. Got Lad McConkey and Dobbins here. So he's got 2 AFC plays here between the Chargers and the Bills. The 2-hole goes Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman. That's it. And then he's got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Any other Eagles? No. So I don't see how. I was going to say I don't see how he fields a Super Bowl, but I guess he can if it's Houston. So C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Joe Mixon with the Eagles with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Again, not dead, but real unlikely. And then the 1 seed, he's got Josh. 1 spot goes Allen, Shakir, Coleman, Kincaid. Who did he take in the last round? I don't know why it's not telling me, but it didn't. So he's got Buffalo pairing it with the Rams with Kupp and Kyron there as a viable build there as well. He's got Terry McLaurin, so maybe he took another Washington piece to give him another out. Again, not a dead lineup, but not a super live one as well. Is Johan Dotson viable? In my opinion, no. I don't know that he has a game with the Eagles all season where he scored more than like 7. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe he's caught a touchdown. Maybe he's got 8 or 9 fantasy points one game. So is he viable? Yeah, yes, he's viable. He could be a 10th round pick. He's someone I could have, let's say, theoretically considered on this build with Hurts. Like, to me, like, if I'm taking another Eagle on this particular build, it's probably Kenneth Gainwell. Like, Kenneth Gainwell is actively involved in this offense. So to me, to me, he's a more viable late round 9th, 10th pick than Johan Dotson. But I wouldn't say Johan Dotson is completely dead. Good question, though. Stat got some teams for you to roast on Discord. Yeah. Albino Batman, shoot him over to me or just tag me on the 1 week season playoff best ball channel in Discord. So if you're not on the 1 week season Discord, you can go over to 1 week season. You can sign up for free. I got a link down in the description as well. You could sign up for free, get access to some of the channels over on the 1 week season Discord. Some really sharp folks in there, completely free. Some of those channels, a lot of channels aren't, but the playoff best ball one is. So please feel free to do that. So I'm going to do one more draft here in the this same exact contest. I keep remembering whatever the F it's called. It's called the Little Gauntlet. So I'm going to do one more of those. If you want to hop in with me, click enter now. And we'll close out this draft board. We are 4 of 6 filled. 6 of 6. A couple of familiar names from previous drafts. I see Mets 11 in there. I see Freeze has been in a couple of these. The other 3 names I don't recognize from previous drafts. So let's do something a little off the board here. Let's not take Lamar Jackson with the 2nd pick. Let's just see how that shakes out for us. As someone who has done a few hundred, not like 500, but as someone who's due to 300 drafts, I don't mind kind of trying to be a little bit unique in some of these starts. I think that if you've done, let's say, 25 or so drafts, you see that there's a pretty common start, pretty common structure across the board that generally gets followed. And sometimes just kind of leaning away from what everyone else is doing can be a positive thing. It could end up being a disaster. I guess we will see here. So board starts out pretty standard, just with me taking Gibbs in the 2-hole. Allen, Gibbs, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts 4. Beard 54 takes Patrick Mahomes, and decision comes down to Mets. Be curious to see what he decides to go. Not going to be surprised to see it be Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, which is always kind of the gamble that you take by going outside of this build. So we'll kind of see what the board kind of shakes out to us. Stat, what are your 4 most likely Super Bowls in my opinion? A nice build here for the 3-hole, being able to get Lamar and Derrick Henry. I love that build for him. I mean, I think that as much as I don't want to use the draft capital on guys that would play in the 2nd round, that's just the build that has to go here. Copy paste dates. 1 second here. Let me see what the board shakes out here for me. I'll make my pick and then I can kind of focus on this for a second. 1 hole goes Josh Allen, James Cook, Devonta Smith. We have talked ad nauseum at how much I do not like that start for the 1 hole. This is not a spot where I'm going to lean into grabbing Jameson Williams here. I think that is a mistake. I think this has to be Aaron Jones. Just because this build for me likely has to be around Minnesota. And so I wouldn't want to lean too heavily into Detroit if Minnesota wins, Detroit is their round 2 opponent. Likely, potentially is their round 2 opponent, depending on it, unless there's an upset. So I guess in hindsight, maybe that's not a horrible build, but it's something that's unlikely. You're kind of betting on an upset. You're betting on a 6 or a 7 seed to win, which I think is totally viable. Like, to me, I could totally see Green Bay beating Philadelphia in the first round. I think the overreaction to Packers in general is kind of ludicrous. Like, Josh Jacobs 2 weeks ago was a 2-3, pick. Second, third, he would go with a 2-3 turner in the third round frequently. They've lost 2 games. They're still 11-5 or 11-6, I guess is their record. It's such an overreaction. And then none of the other Packers generally go until the 8th, 9th, 10th round. Like, this is a good team. That with the Christian Watson news with his knee, likely feared to have torn his ACL, like, just concentrates their offense even more. So to me, they're an interesting team to kind of gamble on later in drafts. I could be very wrong here, but I'm going to keep buying the dip on Baltimore. Okay, so I lied to you, copy paste deletes. I said I was going to tell you something, and now it's waited a full round turn. I think that if I take Addison here, I think that I can push Sam Darnold. To me, there's no reason to take Sam Darnold here. You have no other Minnesota pass catcher. I'm going to guess you could take Hawkinson. To me, that just seems super thin. So I'm willing to push it and just kind of see what comes back to me here. So my 4 most likely Super Bowls, in my opinion, the math says that the most likely Super Bowl is Kansas City, Detroit. I would say the second most likely outcome in my mind is Detroit, Buffalo. The third most likely to me is Detroit, Baltimore. And then the fourth most likely in my mind is Kansas City, Minnesota. I'm not a believer on the Eagles. They could win it all. I've got some rosters built that way. To me, this is one of the biggest misconceptions of this is that this is not a game about picking players. It's like DFS. People think that to be good at DFS, you've got to be able to identify like who are some of the best plays. Like, to me, the advantage in this, and this is coming from someone who has won this contest, has won these playoff best ball contests before, is more around construction. You really want to be able to think through as you're building, like, does this make sense? Could this viably happen? And just kind of being fluid on what the board gives you. I think when you come into a draft with your mind made up of this is what I'm going to do, I think that's a losing strategy. So to me here, I'm looking. I don't know that there's anyone that's top of the board that I am fearful isn't going to be here at 36, 37. That I am that I would be mad at kicking myself if I didn't take. So I'm going to take Darnold here and not push him one more turn. To me, I could have considered Laporta. I considered that. I just didn't. I didn't want to take the chance of getting a good push here and not being able to build what I wanted. I'm okay with pushing Hawkinson here. I think the play is Isaiah Likely to pair with Flowers here. Never seen Shakir fall that fall. I haven't either. I certainly considered Shakir there. I had kind of already made my bet on Baltimore. And with the Lamar Jackson guy to my right with 2 more picks, I didn't think that there was a chance that he would pass on Likely twice. And there was no real other strong Baltimore piece to take there. And I really, I've used a 4th round pick on Zay Flowers. I just wanted to, for me, that was where my mind went. I had the feeling that if I wanted to grab some Buffalo pieces here, like I totally can. Kincaid or Coleman, one of them is likely to be available to me at 47. Not necessarily, but I would say it's more than a 50% chance. And then can easily grab, a Buffalo running back late if I wanted to go that route. Sammy says OWS top shelf. Let's go Buffalo. Yeah, I'm a Bills fan. I'm a Bills fan myself a little bit. In my family, I guess my sister-in-law, I guess, I don't know what the right term is there, is from Albany. Her family's a big Bills supporter, season ticket holders, I believe. So let's grab Dalton Kincaid here. Add another another AFC team to kind of go with my Minnesota build. I'm going to grab Ty Johnson here. So we'll talk through what some of the other teams are doing while we are here. Number 1 has gone Allen, Cook, Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman. So he's got 4 Bills. Has got Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, Sam Laporta, and David Montgomery. I don't mind that at all. And then he's taken George Pickens in the 9th round. Could take Najee Harris, could take Jaylen Warren. I wouldn't mind that. Those are guys that at least one of them will be there. Or could consider another one-off. Three hole here has gone. Actually, let me think about what I want to do here in the 10th, and then we'll talk through the different builds. I don't want Drake London. Yeah, so I think for this build here, it's probably add another either Baltimore piece or another Buffalo piece. I could consider Jaden Naylor as well. Jordan Naylor? Jalen Naylor? Could consider him as well. I think these are the most likely, the most viable plays on this build. I think Ray Davis makes the least sense just because of how weak this Buffalo build is to begin with. So would likely not want them to face. I probably want this to be a Minnesota-Baltimore is really giving me my best chance. So it's, do I want Aguilar or do I want Keaton Mitchell? I don't know that I've really taken any. No. Okay, well, apparently I've got Ray Davis. So poor thinking on my part, but and he takes Jaylen Warren, as we talked about, as kind of a strong build there. So Appreciate you, everyone, kind of tuning in, watching today. Let me kind of document this for a buddy of mine who is the founder of Choose Fun, which is the hat we're rocking today. Just so I can send him a picture letting him know I wore the never wore the shirt. What's the deal? Copy paste delete says, what's the deal with Ty Johnson and Ray Davis? Who's better? Ray Davis is a rookie, good draft pedigree, has had some strong games this year. Ty Johnson, more of a veteran. We've seen him have some real strong pass catching chops. I think both are viable, to be candid. But hour 20 in, a few hundred of you watching live. Very much appreciate you tuning in today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out in the description some strategy articles and videos that I've put out. And I look forward to seeing you guys here again tomorrow. I am live every day. Was the 5-hole there? Got brutally sniped by the 6-hole. Well, let me see. I don't know that we talked through that. Let me kind of talk through that. Mets goes, and to answer your question, Henry, you were the 5-hole, got brutally sniped by the 6. You can't get sniped by the 6-hole. You pick first on every turn. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but you don't get sniped in the 5-hole by the 6-hole. You do the sniping. You get first pick every time, every round that it comes. You get first pick. So 6-hole goes Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, Jameson Williams. So starts off with a strong Detroit build. Goes Isaiah Pacheco and ends with Noah Gray. So he's got a Detroit, Kansas City, like 2 bye week build. And then his 5 to try to advance are Bucky Irving, Nico Collins, Baker Mayfield, Jalen McMillan, Joe Mixon. Mets 11, I like this build a lot. As a potential to get out of the first round. Obviously, it's a thin needle you're trying to thread, but I like your one-off pieces. No one super thin. Beard, let's see what you did here. You went Mahomes, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. Don't mind that. You're fine there. So you've got to. You obviously have once you don't grab Pacheco or Kareem Hunt, you kind of know that you're running through. Your running back is going to be running through Philadelphia or Los Angeles, since you've got Barkley and Kyron. So you've grabbed Kyron and Cup. I like that. I see what you're talking about here with Pacheco here and Bucky on this turn as well. Yeah, that makes sense. I see your gripes there. Yeah, I see this now. Setting up the Evans Bucky took. Yeah, I think you pivoted well. I think the only feedback that I would have for you is, instead of Jaden Reed here, I would have preferred to see another Eagle. Give yourself, I probably would have preferred to see Kenneth Gainwell. We talked about Johan Dotson. Not in love with that. You could take Grant Calcaterra, backup tight end. Like, they did activate Dallas Goedert, but he hasn't played a game. So effective he'll be. So that would be my only feedback for you. Just kind of give you, along with the Rams, giving you another option of an NFC piece. Was looking at an Eagle, but felt like Saquon and Kenneth Gainwell was too weak. You could say, to me, it's better to have 5 for a potential Super Bowl match than not have 5. That's just my opinion. Mets is a Buck fan. Don't let your guard down. Yeah. It's interesting, Mets 11 being a Bucks fan. He's someone I have chatted with in the Discord, and I'm not sure he could physically live much further away than Tampa Bay. So funny to have that alliance there, Mets. Appreciate the review and the streams. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. So that'll do it for me today. I'll be back again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We'll continue to take your questions in the live stream. But again, appreciate you tuning in as always, and have a good night.
1 week season.